Hello and welcome to the JM Academy. My name's Alison Tarry and today we're going to be investigating the Persian chainmail weaves. This is something that's developed in Persia. It's been developed from a box chain weave, which there are several chainmail weaves that started off with the basic box chain, and it's been, you can have sheets of it, you can have chains. It makes great bracelets, it makes great necklaces, you can use it for earrings. It's a very versatile set of weaves. There is a huge range of jump rings that you can use for them, depending on whether you're going to do them single or whether you're going to do them doubled or kinged. They call it a king weave, where you double the weave up. You can do really quite chunky ones, you can do small delicate ones. So there's a vast array of different sizes of chainmails that you can do, and the weaves themselves take different numbers of jump rings. So what I wanted to just go through was the difference you can have with texture. So we've got, this is a square profile jump ring, which can give you a totally different feel to the piece. It gives it a more masculine edge because it's very angular. That's a lovely jump ring to use. This is your normal round jump rings, which gives you that beautiful smooth finish. You can add colour into the mix. So when you've got multiple colours, it gives you one feel, but then you can block them and you get something totally different. That's exactly the same weaves, just a different way you're using the colours. So you can affect your weave by all sorts. So you can also go from large jump rings down to a much smaller jump ring, and that gives you a much tighter weave. So there's a vast array of sizes, shapes, textures. You can use textured jump rings, twisted jump rings, and you'll get to know which ones you prefer, which sort of size you prefer doing. But they'll all work with all of those jump rings. All the weaves we're going to do today will work with all of those. So what do we need tool-wise? You need some basic pliers, flat nose or chain nose. A lot of people prefer a bent or a curved pliers. This is because when you've got a jump ring, you can go in for a small area, or you can hold it, just turn it round, and you're actually holding across a broad area without changing your plier. So a lot of chainmailers prefer to have one that is a bent or a curved plier, and then I've got another pair of just ordinary flat ones. So basically you need two pliers. You need two pliers to open and close them and keep them nice. So very minimal amount of equipment that you need. Your jump rings, you're going to need hundreds and hundreds of jump rings. You will go through an awful lot, but that's it. That's basically somewhere to put your jump rings on so that they don't roll away. But if you put them on a wooden table, then they're not going to go very far anyway. And that's it. You can also get some aids to help you with this. So you can get a jump ring opener. So that's a ring that you pop on your finger with slits on, and the different slits will be for different size jump rings. And what you do is you pick up your jump ring with a pair of pliers, and then you can just open it by popping the jump ring in the slit and then twisting it, and that will open it. So it means you can be holding onto your piece of chainmail. So if you've got your piece of chainmail, you don't have to put it down. You can literally just pick it up, open your next ring and put it through. Most people will open their jump rings prior to starting or in batches, but you're getting towards the end and you're like, oh no, I've got another 3 to do. Then you don't want to put it down, or more importantly, when you're starting. Usually with weaves, the start of it is where if you put it down, it might go into a mess, and then you pick it up and you don't know where you're at. So that's usually where you want to hold it and then be opening to use if you're going to not open them all to begin with. So now we've got all that, we're going to go on to the next chapter and start our weaves. So in this chapter, we're going to look at the full Persian or the 6-in-1. So what does that mean? 6 in 1. Each jump ring has 6 other jump rings into it. So when you're looking at what jump rings to use, you need to know that you can get 6 jump rings into one of the jump rings. They're all the same size unless you're doing a graduated piece, but we'll keep it simple. All one size to do this weave. It's a very consistent weave, but for each weave we've got, for each jump ring in this chain here, you've got six other jump rings feeding through it. So it can be, if you take it down to a smaller size and an even smaller size, hang on, I've got an even smaller one here, then you can see it's a lot more dense than this one, which is a lot looser, more fluid. You can see the gaps more easily. This is still fluid, but you know, you're pushing hard to see the gaps between it. It's a lot more dense, but each of them on all of these will have 6 more jump rings through it. But we don't build it like that. We build it 2 by 2. So I'll move those out of the way, and I'm going to use the big jump rings to show it first, and then we'll go on to the ordinary size jump rings. So these are just enlarged jump rings that I've used for demonstration. So we're starting off with the 2 by 2 chain. So we're going to put the next 2 in. So that's our first 2. And then I'm going to switch colour and go to the next 2. Obviously on the other jump rings we'll be using pliers, but these are just easier. We're then going to, this is where the box chain bit comes in, we're going to flip them back over, the 2 sides over, and then open that up. So you've got those 2 folded back, and we've opened up the 2 gold ones, which means we can see those 2 copper ones poking through. So we're going to pick up our gold one and we're going to capture those, and you can see that box shape happening. So we're going to just close those down, and another one to pop through there and close down. So that's the start of it. So this is the basic building block that we've got in here. We're now going to go to repetition, but you get into a rhythm of it. So we basically, you're doing 2 directions of jump rings. So you're starting off, you've got your gold jump rings which are coming vertically, and your copper jump rings that are going horizontally. So next we want to open these 2 gold ones, and because we're wanting to catch these, we're going vertically. So we're going to put our gold ones in there. So 1, 2, it doesn't matter whether you go from above or below, you're just catching the 2 copper in the middle. So we've got those 2 next. We now need to connect these. So we're going to go through with our copper through the 2 vertical ones. So the copper are going horizontally, and the gold are going vertically. Okay, so they lie horizontally. So you basically carry on doing that on your weave, and you find the copper start laying one on top of the other, and if you look at there, it's the same pattern. These are going narrow to wide, narrow to wide. If I turn it round, the copper is going wide to narrow, wide to narrow, narrow to wide, narrow to wide, wide to narrow, wide to narrow. So it's all going the same pattern. These are just reverse of that. So they go one direction and they go the other. So it doesn't really matter which way round you do it. So I always tend to do it, I keep it so that you've got one set going vertically, and you do turn it around, but then you always know that you're putting through, you're going vertically, and that one goes vertically, and then you turn it round, and the copper, there we go, are going horizontally. So turn it over and you pop it through there, and you can see now, even with these super enlarged jump rings, you're starting to get the feel of what that pattern is doing. So we're now going to swap onto the smaller jump rings, so you get an idea of a proper size jump ring. So I'm just going to move those 2 out of the way, and we're going to undo our piece of wire. So all this piece of wire is doing is actually giving me something to hold on to. You can use a cable tie, you can use a little key fob if you want, you can use another jump ring, anything like that you can use to work it. So we're just going to close our 2 jump rings to pop onto there, and we're going to pick up our 2 gold ones and start with our 2x2 chain. So we're going to go put 2 jump rings onto the gold and close it, and then 2 more jump rings same direction with another gold going through. Right, so that's our 2x2. When you want to attach a clasp to this, there are different ways that you can do. You can say we're going to take those directly to the clasp, or you can actually flip these back and start from there. So it's up to you how close. And when I'm saying by that, if I fetch this over, you can see these 2 here are quite close to where I'm going. So I've got my 2 jump rings and they're all very close. So when you start, it's easier to do another pair and then flip them back, only because it gives you that little bit more to grasp when you're starting. It just gives you a little bit more of a starting place. So I would recommend doing the 2, even if when you come to add a clasp, you take these 2 off and directly connect to those. But I would just add those extra 2 on just for ease of use. They're not essential. You can go straight away, but if you look, when you're doing that, this can get caught up in it. It starts getting a bit complicated. So keep it simple. So we now want to put our extra pair of jump rings on. So we're just doing 2x2, nice and simply. And you notice I've got all my jump rings pre-opened, and then we're going to, that one's automatically folding back. We're just going to fold these 2 back, let them fall back, and then when you hold them, you're kind of holding them at the end and pushing them forward. These will probably fall open for you, the 2 silver, okay? When you folded them back, you always want to catch what's in the middle and pull it forward. So we're going to go with the silver to catch there. Don't worry if they fold back while you're doing it, because as soon as you put some tension, they flip back into place. But I am going to keep hold of those 2. And then we put the other 2 on. Once you've done 3 or 4 sections, then you're good to go. Now we're there. We're going to put the gold ones on, and we're going to feed through, as before, we're going to feed through the 2 verticals and then the last 2 we've just put on. So this is where you can turn these round, so I can get the smaller bit to close my jump ring. So that's where the advantage of your bent nose pliers or your curved pliers can come in, is you can get into that smaller space. These are a 9mm inner diameter jump ring. By that we mean it's 9mm inside. We're going to open that one up and put 2 more silvers in, and but they're a square profile jump ring that's been twisted. So unlike the one I showed you in the introduction, which were just a flat square profile, these have actually been twisted. Think wrought iron railings where they twist the squares, and you've got the square profile. But what it means is it gives you a chunkier jump ring, chunkier than if it was round and chunkier than if it was an ordinary square. So you can see this pattern building now quite clearly. It's a really nice weave to have in 2 colours. It shows really well if you do it in 2 colours. It's a nice weave, multicoloured. I've showed you examples of it multicoloured. It's a nice weave in a self colour. It looks a lot more expensive, like the example we've got here, where it's pure silver. So that's all silver jump rings. So that will give you a lot more high-end look than if you're using the colours. If you go to something like this, which you could do in rose gold, yellow gold and silver, but that would be extremely expensive. So this is a silver plate. So that's the difference, where you can do that one, you can do the one on the stand in a sterling silver, but this would be prohibitive. It would be a vast amount of money. And yet when you come down in size and not square, these are just ordinary. I think these are a 5mm in the diameter, and it gives you a really nice effect. And these are gold plated sterling silver and sterling silver jump rings, so you get that nice two-tone effect. And because of the way the chainmail works, you can do it so you know you've got silver one side and gold the other, and you can, when you wear it, you can roll that on the wrist to have whichever colour you prefer showing. So it gives you a sort of daytime nighttime wear effect, depending on how you do it. Whereas that's much more fun, not much more fun, but that's alternating every other. But this one, it will change what colour you're doing each time. So when you're doing the two-tone, when you're learning, I think the two-tone gives you a great basis for learning, because you know you put the silver ones on next, you know you're doing the horizontal, you can see what's come behind. If you put it down and gone away and you're not sure what jump ring to do next, you come back and I'm like, oh, I don't know which one I'm going to do next. If you put it in the wrong way, it will be obvious straight away. But all you've got to do is look, hang on, my gold one's horizontal and I haven't got it going through there yet. So that's where I'm at next. So you can straight away pick that up, because if you open those, you haven't got the two jump rings. Come on, open up. You haven't got the two jump rings to go because they've already been captured. So you've got to be there next. So it can take a little while to get used to it, but you can work out what jump ring you're on next. So don't worry if you've had to pop out to the door, or you've got the phone ringing and you're like, I don't want to put it down. This is a weave that it doesn't collapse on you. It will stay fairly consistent depending on the size of the jump rings. These are quite large jump rings, so you've got quite a lot of space around them. So, but even though it sort of like collapses a bit, as soon as you pick it up, you know where you're at. So it's a nice jump ring to start. It's a nice weave to start with. I think of the 4 we've got on the tutorial today, I think it's the easiest one to start with, for that very reason. So once you get into a rhythm with it, it's nice. There is more to it than some of the other chainmail weaves we're doing, but I think it is the easiest one because of that rhythm and the way it does it. So have a go with your full Persian or your Persian 6-in-1, and we'll get on to the next chapter. In this chapter, we're going to look at the half Persian or the 3-in-1. So it is what it says on the tin. Each jump ring has 3 other jump rings. It's called a half Persian, not only because there's 6 and you're now looking at 3, but because when you look at it, and I've got a spare section here. So when you look at it, if you look at it in one direction, it's kind of, can you see how that's sort of sitting above? If I turn it sideways, you're getting this above profile, so it sort of bulges out. And then if we turn it over, you're getting this V happening. So it's concave and convex indeed. So you get this V, which makes it great. You can use this to set cabochons in, to wrap round things. It's actually really nice to use. So it's a nice chainmail for that, and it's the 3-in-1 because for each of these jump rings you've got 3 going in. So how do we do it? So this is one of the ones, they can be quite fiddly. The 6-in-1 is great. You start going, you do a couple and you're off and running. If you put it down, you can pick it back up. This one you want to do 1/2 inch, 1 inch to start it. So what a lot of people who do it less frequently do is they'll create a section like this. You'll have a short section, and then you can carry on with the weave from this section. You don't have to go through the pain of starting it. So you can just carry on, and then when you've got the length of new you want, then you can come back and take it off. But we'll look at that in a little bit. Let's look at how we start it. So we want 3 jump rings. So I've got 2 gold jump rings, and I'm going to pick up a copper jump ring. So with this one, you can actually have, I know we've got all our jump rings that are open, but you can actually have half of your jump rings closed. So this means if you have some closed jump rings, and I don't mean ones that are cut but just closed, but ones that are soldered shut, they're great for using in with this weave, because half of them you can have that don't open. So we're going to just shut those up. Normally we would open all our jump rings. So we're going to shut those, and then we're going to look at here. So we've got our 3 jump rings, our 2 gold and our copper one. And we're going to push the gold together so they slip behind each other. Okay, now if you look, you can have this that works in 2 ways. You can have them going from left to right or from right to left. So it doesn't matter which way round you have them, so long as you go consistently in the same way. So I'm going to pick up one of my jump rings, scoop up one of the closed ones, and then I'm going to come from behind. And if I put this down again before I do that, you can see here, ignoring the copper one, let me get the copper one out of the way. When we've pushed them together, you've got this almost Venn diagram, this eye happening. Yeah, this ellipse, this eye shape in the middle. That's what we're aiming for. So you can do it, you can do this with them down on the ground, down on the board, and pop them through. I find it easier to have it in hand. So I'm going to go with my copper ring, I'm going to go through the eye of the 2 gold rings, and the one on my right is behind the one on the left, and then I'm going to close it. So this will now slide down to be top and down, and then this one sits behind. So if we look at it profile on, they're all slanting in that direction. Doesn't matter if you do them slanting in the other direction, so long as you're consistent. So we're going to move that down slightly. We've now got an ellipse, an eye shape with those 2. So we're going to pick up our next, and if you'll notice, I'm only using an open copper colour. I'm going to pick up my closed gold and go through that ellipse, but miss the red, the copper. So I'm not going through the copper at all, I'm only going through the 2 gold jump rings, and then we're going to close it. We're going to pop this gold one behind the other 2, move along, and if you can see, I'm still keeping hold of it as I move along. So it's still quite unstable at this stage. If you drop this, you've got to try and shuffle it, but at this stage, what I would do is I'd probably just start again. I'd undo them and start again, because it would be quicker than trying to shuffle them back into this shape. So we're going to pick up another one, pop that one up there, pick up our open copper and our closed gold one into the ellipse. If this one slips, don't worry, because you're going through that one and then through that one, and it's quite an easy way to then you've got this ellipse with this one sitting in the middle. Just make sure you don't catch that copper one, and then close it. So the copper jump rings only ever pass through the gold jump rings. They're all independent. All of these are independent of each other, but not of the gold. So we're going to do that a couple more times so you can see when it's stabilized a little bit what it's like. So you can get into a rhythm with this. The reason it's harder than the 6-in-1 is the starting place. You've just got this fiddly bit to start off with. So if I pull this out here and lay it down, then you can see what you're creating. This is the chain you're creating, and this is some people call this the back. You've got this V, so you've got this groove running down them. if we turn this over, you have this arch going. So when you pick it up, you can see it can go all over. So you need to make sure you've got hold of the top. However, when you lay it down, it will lay beautifully across the skin. And it does, even with these big, huge jump rings, looks lovely across the skin. It works well as a strap for something. You could use this for a bag strap. When you're attaching, have those two at the end, so you've got each one of those. That one's got 2 in it, and that one has got 2. So each one of those, fetch them together, pop a different jump ring over the end, and that will then secure it. But you can see I've got a few inches, or about 3 or 4 inches, or about 10 centimeters of starting line. That's now held that in position. So although they look a little bit out of order at the bottom here, at the top they're now more secure in their pattern. So creating that length there, you can carry on, but that bit is the awkward, shall we say, part to start off with. So that's why a lot of people create a little length like this that they can then use time and again and add on their extra chainmail. So don't forget, when you're starting or finishing, you want that cross there. So for this one, I would actually stop at that point there and get rid of this last jump ring. So if I do that, if I'm going to finish this, hang on, let me get back in place. Was it upside down? You see, once you've come out of place, you've got to try and find it. There it is. So we take that one off, and we're going to use those two, and then you've got your stable. With that one, it pulls it out of shape. So when you're finishing, make sure you finish without that extra loose one on the end. And you can tell because that one's got 2 and that one's only got 1 in. So you're going to lose this extra one and finish on those 2 once you've got them back into place. So when we've got, you can either start that and keep going till you've finished, or we can pick up our sample chain, and this is our chain, and we're going to carry on with this one now. So I'm going to get these last couple into place. Let me just check they're in the right place. There we go. So we've got that last ellipsoid, and we're now going to pick up, I'm using all one colour now, so I'm going to pick up my next copper coloured one, pop you back on there, and I'm going to go through that ellipsoid. You can, if you turn it, you can get a clearer view, or another way of doing it, these are being slippery today, another way of doing it is basically you've pulled that gold one out the way, and then I can go up through there and close it. Now I want to put another one on the end because I didn't pick my closed one up. In fact, because I'm all the same colour, I'm just going to close half of these so that I can pick them up. These are very pliable jump rings. Normally I wouldn't use my fingers to do them. I would normally use either an opener, but these are so pliable I can do them without. So I'm going to pop one through there. Come on, there we go. So we've got that one, and we would have the equivalent of this is that one, and we'd have the equivalent of that one going through there. This is why you would have, when you're starting, again, it's quite good to have 2 different colours because you can very easily distinguish which bit they're in when you're starting. So I know that that first copper one is coming with the golds, and this one is going to sit on top of there. So I've got the same pattern. So this one should be free. And these should always lie one on top of the other, and these should always lie. So if we look at it from the side view, you can see that they're all lying where they should. So if we lay that down, all of them are lying in the same direction. You shouldn't have any changes of direction. You've got your V that side and your curve that side. So that's when you know that you've got everything in the right place. So I'm just going to pop that back into the right place and do that one again. So if you do go from doing the colour, where are we at? There we are. To the copper, then that's what you've got to be aware of. When you've gone from the colour to a self colour, is what I'm trying to say, you lose track of which one is which. It's easier to see. So we're going to pick up our jump ring, open, pick up our closed jump ring and go through that ellipse. Don't forget you're missing out on this front. I'm going to call them front and back now because they're the same colour. So we're going to pop that one, overlaying the first one, and you carry on picking up every other through. If you lose it like that, don't worry, because you can, go on, up you go, scoop that one up, or just come back out and then scoop it in there. There we go. And then that one goes over the top. So you've got your, try and hold that out, you've got your copper ones going through the middle and your copper ones going along the top. So when you've got the length of the copper ones that you want, you'd come back to here and you can just open up the last few of these to take the copper off the test strand, and then you've got your chain. Obviously this is a very short chain, so you're not going to see much. So you'd then get your chain that you'd have, and then you've still got that ready to go for when you do your next one. So it's quite good having a starter one. Like I say, make sure you've got your V one side and your convex the other side, your bulgy outside and your V side, and then you know you've got it right. To attach them, as we did with the big jump rings, make sure you've got a cross of 2 of those where you can pull it out. Come on. There we go. See how they cross over there, and then you can pull that out and know that can just attach to your clasp. If I turn this one around, then you can see I've used a toggle clasp with this, so I've put a few extra short jump rings on purely to make that toggle fit through, because the jump rings are almost as large as the loophole. So that's how you do it. You've got your nice convex that side, and if I don't know whether you'll pick it up on here, if I turn that over, you get the different profile. You can wear it whichever way you like. It doesn't matter. It will flip from one to the other quite happily and stay there. So this has been your Persian 3-in-1, and we're now going to go on to the next chapter. In this chapter, we're going to look at the Persian 4-in-1. This is sometimes always also confusingly called a half Persian, but this gives you a very different profile to the 3-in-1. So it is what it says on the tin, 4 jump rings in each single jump ring. But this time you don't have, where we had the convex and the concave side, we've actually got, it's double-sided. So it actually gives you, if you look at the end profile, you get the 2 layers, one on top of the other, and then if you flip them over, it's reversed. So it's really nice. It's a really nice 2-tone chainmail. It's great if it's one colour as well, but it really lends itself to being those 2 colours, because of the way the jump rings lie, gives you these 2 distinct patterns. But it's a beautiful texture. So these are with a textured jump ring. The example we've got here is much more dense. So these are the twisted square profile jump rings. So you've got a much more dense. If I hold this one up against it, you can see that this one is much finer than this one, even though the jump rings are the same in a diameter. So shows you that you can have such a different feel to the piece. Oh, and it can also twist, so it doesn't actually matter, it will twist around. So if you lay it down, again, this is a starter piece, so once you've got a certain amount, then you can carry on, so you can keep that piece as a starter. But we're going to go from scratch, so I'm going to put that to one side for now. So this is, you've got 3 jump rings and your 4th. So we're going to have 2 on one side and 1 on the other. Yes, I've done this the right way around. And then we're just going to sort of squash these. I want them to go the other way. There we go. We're going to squash these so that they lie one on top of the other. If I'd have done them the other way, it would have given you the other side twist. Again, doesn't matter which way you do them. One will lay left to right, one will lay right to left. So it doesn't matter which way, so long as you are consistent. So now we've got these 4. We've got the 3 golds, and then we've got this loose copper. Again, if you lie it down, it becomes complicated. What you're looking for is the ellipse, but this time we've got one we're going to go through, and then the ellipse we're going to go back under. So the ellipse is in the first 2, and then we've got this one at the end. So we're going to pick up a copper, so we're working again with the copper as our open jump ring, and we're going to pick up our closed jump ring, which is the gold. We're going to go through the gold, and then from behind we're going to come up through this ellipse, and then we're going to stay behind that copper. So I'm going to close that one down. So now we've got our 2 coppers lying one on top of the other, slanting, and our golds, again, we're all laying one on top of the other, but they're going in the opposite direction. So I'm going to do that again. Pick up our copper, hook one of the closed jump rings. So you're going to go through the end, and you can tell the end one because it's the floppy. It's only attached to that one copper jump ring, so it's always floppy. The one the other end shouldn't do it because you've got the jump ring in front of it. Okay, so we're going to go through our gold, twist it, and then we're going to go through the connection of the next 2. So we're looking for that ellipsoid on the next 2. Okay, and then we're going to close it before it gets to that copper. So if we look at it from the side on profile, you can see you've got one side gold and one side sitting copper. So we're going to pick up another jump ring, go through this end one, which, like I say, is the loose one, turn it round and come up through that ellipse, through that eye, and behind that red one. So you're going behind. If you come through the middle of the red one, that's wrong. The copper one, you want to be behind it. The copper jump ring should never go through the other copper jump ring. So let me close that one down. Okay, so you should be able to, if I put that down, I should be able to lift all the copper jump rings up as one. They're each independent of the other. So you never go, copper doesn't go through copper, the gold doesn't go through the gold. They just lay on top of each other and they're interweaved by their relationship. The gold does, they're interrelationship with the other. So your copper picks up a gold, goes through the gold, does its twist around, comes up through that next gold and out behind the other copper. We're going to shut that down. So the gold has not passed through the gold at any point. Shuffle that down a bit more. We're going to have the copper pick up the gold, go through the gold, back round and through the join of the other 2 and close. Okay, so when you're fastening the end, like before, you're looking for that connection between the two. So where you've got this spare one here, I would get rid of that one at the end so that you're connecting from there and there. So if I just undo that one, connect it through those two. And then pick up one this end, and they would attach to your clasps. Then you can see that is a nice stable. All of these are running one into the other, into the other. You've got your gold that side above the copper, and if you flip it over you get the same, and this side you got the copper above the gold, and again if you flip it over, copper above gold. So that is your 4-in-1. We're going to have a look at it now with the small jump rings running on from one we've saved. So if you do a section like that, you can see that stable. You've got a securing jump ring, shall we say, at each end. You could make this into a keychain if you wanted, by putting a split ring on that side, and then, I don't know, put a gemstone or something on that end, and it gives you a nice key fob or length to hold on to. But as a starter length, that's a great length to start with. So I'm going to get the one I've done earlier, and you can see here I've added a jump ring to those two. So you've got your two colours where they cross. I've added a little jump ring before I put a clasp on, so that will fasten. So this is less likely to collapse, shall we say, than the 3-in-1. The 3-in-1 is a lot. The thinner the jump rings, the larger the jump rings, the bigger your aspect ratio, so that's how many jump rings you can fit in, then the more likely it is collapse. So if you want to have a really tight weave, then you'd make it either very fat jump rings or smaller and fatter jump rings. So these are a 1 mil, so they're quite a thin jump ring for this size. If I went down to the smaller ones, for instance, the size on here that I've got of the 3, then that actually holds really nicely. So this one, they're a 5 mil inner diameter, so they're a much tighter, same size, same gauge of jump ring, but it's a tighter weave. So and likewise with the example we've got here, because of the twist on it, it gives it a higher gauge, even though the wire itself isn't, but the twist makes it bulkier. So you will get a much more dense effect than with these. But we're going to carry on with these, and we're going to change it. We're going to work with our gold, and so our silver are laying on top of each other, and the gold is now going behind. So all that difference is, if I fetch this back, come here, there we go, make sure I've got the right direction. So where the silver is, we've got gold, and where the copper is, we've got the copper there. So the copper's on the same direction, but the gold is, we've replaced with silver. So I'm going to go silver, and the gold this time will be where the copper is. No, I'm going to flip them because I'm using the silver to go through. So that's that one. So I'm going to pick up my silver, pick up my extra jump ring. I'm going to go through that loose one, which should be, yeah, which is behind in this one. And it doesn't matter which way you do it, so long as you're consistent. So if we go through that end one, so don't forget the end one should always be loose. We're going to twist round and come back up through that ellipse of the next two. There we go. So you've come through this one on the end, then you're skipping round between the ellipse from the next two, and then you're going to join that together. So you're going to pick it up, go through there. So we're now going through the gold one, spinning round and coming back up through the next one. And you're coming behind this silver one. So just be aware when you're reusing your starter piece, that you're working in the same way. So always check when you're doing it that all your silver or all your lower, let's say lower because you'll probably be using different colours, so all your lower ones are going in the same orientation. These are going slanting from left down to right, and the upper are going from left up to right corner. So they're going from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and these are going from 10 o'clock down to 4 o'clock. So just make sure the orientation is correct when you're doing it. So I'll just do that one again. We'll pick up one more, slide on our next one. You don't have to put this next one on straight away. You can feed it through there, and then we're going to go through the copper and the gold. Okay, that time, and then we're going to close it. But if you didn't want to pick up that one, you could actually, when you get to the point where you're about to close it, you can pop it on then. So if I just pick up the silver, I can go through there. If you find you keep dropping the jump ring off, then do it like this, get it into position, and then at that point slide on your next gold one, and then we're going to close it. So that's how you do it. You can see that same pattern, they're all going in the same direction, and we've changed that. And then as before, all you've got to do is undo a few jump rings. Once you've got your full length, take them off. Thanks very much. That goes and then has its clasp put on, and then put your few jump rings back on there, and then that goes back to being your starter piece, and you can carry on how you want to do. So it's just because the start can be quite awkward with this weave. I over time you get used to it, and you pick your three jump rings will slant. You've got your fourth one sort of down here, and then you pick up your next one, and that's your 4 in 1. Once you get used to holding it like that, it becomes quite easy, because it doesn't matter. You just know wherever you are, you're holding it, and you know you've got your 1, 2, 3, and there's your 1. So you're going to pick up your jump ring, and it becomes second nature. Once you've done a few of these, you'll get so used to doing it that you'll find it quite easy to do. So keep going, add your clasp on in the same way as before. This one becomes superfluous at the end, that one comes off. You're looking for where those two cross that are connected in more than one place. So it's those two pieces you add on to add on your clasp. If I turn this one around here, again you can see I've added extra jump rings to allow for the T-bar to pass through, because otherwise it'll get part way through and the actual weave itself will stop them. So, but you'll find that out by practicing. If you struggle to get it to come through, then you know you just got to put in a couple of extra little jump rings, and that is your Persian 4 in 1. It's time now to go to the next chapter. Hi, so in this chapter we're going to be looking at what's called a cross-eyed Persian. So what it is, it's a Persian 6 in 1, and some of the jump rings are crossed over. That's great, you say. What difference does it make? So this is the Persian 6 in 1. It's a very square piece. All sides are equal. That's lovely. Now this, which is in smaller jump rings than that, it's in slightly bigger jump rings, but this is the cross-eyed Persian. That's square, you've got the corners. If you notice, this is wider, and then if I pick it up, it's narrower that side. So it goes narrow, wide. It's more oblong than square. And that's because you've got this bit, which is exactly the same as that. You've got your classic Persian, narrow to wide, or wide to narrow, whichever way you're doing it. So that's that side. But then on this edge, they all cross over. So can you see that crossover there? And this is what forces it. It kind of slides it. If you could take that one and slide it and squash it to one side, that's effectively what this is weave is doing. So each side you can see there's a crossover happening with these jump rings, and that forces it from that nice square to having this ridge down each side. So it's just a variation of the 6-in-1, but it gives you a totally different profile, and it can be less rigid. So how do we do that? Let's get going. Let's take this out of the way. So I've got my 2 jump rings. We're going to start in more or less the same way. Then I'm going to add on my next 2. Now again, you get to the point where, do you want to add these on and then flip it straight away, or do you want to add another pair on? If you're going to flip this straight away, you want these to cross. So these have to cross straight away. So we can see that as if you were doing a Mobius ring, you've taken your jump ring through the copper 2 and through the other gold one. You're then going to flip them over to the side, as we did for the box frame, pulling that bit out of the way, and then you open those up, open your copper up, and you're going to use your 2 copper to go in and pull that through. So this is forming your box, and you're going to pull those through, and then if I pull that up, there you've got your box. So here you've got your shape that we had before. We've got the narrow to wide, and then these would form our next narrow to wide. But when we turn it over, these jump rings are crossed. So they cross, when you pull it out, what happens is it forces that cross, and you can see where they're crossed in there, so it forces it into that place. So we continue with normal Persian. So we're going to take our yellow, our gold, and we're going to go through the first 2 coppers and then through that second pair of coppers. So it should lie on top like before. So it lies on top of that one, that's great. But when we turn it sideways, that's lying across that, but that one is going under that one. So carrying on going round, you want this one, the one nearest me, the one nearest yourself, to be under the furthest away one. So we're going to turn it round to the other side, pick up our next gold one, go through the first 2 coppers, and then as we go through the centre of the other 2, we're actually going to go through the middle of that gold one. So can you see there, it's gone through the middle of the gold, and then we're going to close it. So you've got that cross. If I pull these out of the way, you can see that cross happening there. So we're then coming back to the copper, we're going to open them. Again, as you're learning this technique, I would recommend you do it with 2 colours, because it's very easy then to know which is which. You know, always your gold ones are going to be crossing, and always your copper ones are going through the middle. So, and you can see, whereas the other one would, when you pulled it, straight away you get that square box. Automatically this is sloping, and this is because this one is going underneath, so it's forming it like that. It's got that push. So if I try and push that way, this sticks out as a ridge, this one sticks out as a ridge because this one's going underneath. So in effect it's squashing that sideways, and that's what's giving you this different shape. So we're going to do that again. We're going to take our gold one, go through the 2 copper, and then through the end 2 copper, and fasten. And then you're going to turn it over, making sure those 2 are going that way. So you're going through underneath that, and you're going to go through those 2 copper. And as you go through the other 2 copper, you're going to go through the middle of that gold as well. So you're crossing all of them as you go through, and you're going to close that. So again, we're going to open that up, pick up our 2 copper, and it's now starting to hold its design. So we're then going to add our 2 gold. you can tell if you've done it the wrong way round. So if I pop that through there, it doesn't matter whether you go under or over, so long as you're consistent. So the main thing about this is you're consistent. So what I mean by that is, if I go through there and then do it the other way round so that it's gone above, it's more fiddly to do. So it's not a natural way for it to go through. I'm going to have to get my pliers to close it. So already you can tell it's awkward, but as soon as you look on the top now, you can see that that's crossed the other direction. So you'll know straight away. If you want to do it that way, you can. As you can see, it's a lot more fiddly because you're trying to get around and over the top of that. So I'm going to go through there. The natural feel is to go underneath, because it'll just automatically slide underneath there and underneath the gold and underneath the 2 copper, and then you've got loads of room to shut it. So that then comes back into line, and all of the ones furthest from me are lying left to right, and all the other ones are going below. So you can see that quite clearly with the 2 colours, and also that you've got this slightly narrow that side and broad that side. So it's a different profile. You can feel the ridge when you run your hands down it. When you've got a finished piece, you can definitely feel that change in texture from your square, all sides the same, ordinary Persian to your, and you can see this one here sort of sticks out in a ridge. So you've got a ridge sticking out and a ridge sticking out there. You've got your ordinary Persian going there. If I turn that one round to match the same, there you go, same direction. So you go narrow to wide, but this one is where you're crossing over. So it's a really nice weave to do. It just gives you that different texture. You're looking at same time to make it, same jump rings you can make it with. If your weave is very tight, so if you're doing this one and the weave is very tight and compact, then you might struggle to cross them. If you've got them so tight, because you can do this quite tight, then you're not likely to cross them, because you won't have that room. It's going to take up more room for those 2 to cross over. So that's just something to be mindful of, but you'll find that out within 3 or 4. You might get the first couple done and then it starts tightening up and tightening it up, and you're like, hang on a minute, I need to either step up a size of the same gauge jump ring, or step down a gauge so that you've got a finer jump ring to give it that little bit more space. So just have a play with it. Again, what I haven't done it here, you can use textured jump rings for one and smooth for the other. So even if you did it all in silver or all in gold or all the same colour, if you've got the 2, it's giving it light and shade. So you're using texture to give you that definition that this is different. So these are crossed, but these are all in a twisted, and these are all in the smooth. It will just give you a different feel to the piece. Again, if you're just doing it in the smooth round jump rings, I think you get a more exclusive, I think that gives you a higher end feel to it, especially if you do it in precious metal, in sterling silver or a plated silver or a gold if you've got them. These give you more of a fun aspect to it. So, and you can play with those colours till your hearts come down. We've been learning about the Persian weave chainmail. My name's Alison Tarry. You've been watching the JM Academy. Look forward to seeing you soon.